All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about another great Ryan Coogler film. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Sinners, the newest film from director Ryan Coogler. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Coogler presents his version of a vampire tale. Of course, it's set in 1930s. Of course, it's set in the South, the Deep South, and Mississippi. And it's a story of two brothers played by Michael B. Jordan, who play Smoke and Stack, who in essence return home after their kind of travels to Chicago in the nature of the gangster era and stuff like that. And basically, they open up a juke joint that is something they want to make money off of, but they want to give the African American community a place to go have fun, drink, do all kinds of scandalous stuff. The movie's called Sinners for for what it's worth. And in the process, we have people like Hailee Steinfeld and, of course, Wunmi Mosaku. We, of course, have Miles Caton, who plays one of the cousins. And we have people like Delroy Lindo, who plays this really cool blues musician. So in the process of everything, you have Jack O'Connell, who plays Remnick, and he may or may not be a vampire who wants to cleanse the world of evil while kind of representing the evil that it represents in the world of racism and stuff like that. So it's basically Ryan Coogler's explanation of how lies and deceit and manipulation can spread through even a thing like vampirism in the world that is the Deep South and the world that is the 1930s. But it's also a vampire movie in the vein of like something like Lost Boys or something like that. So it's a movie where Ryan Coogler gets a bigger budget and a much more deeper, kind of stronger sense of like what he wants to represent in his films. So at this point, Ryan Coogler has not made a bad movie. I think Wakanda Forever is not a great movie, but there is some stipulations with that, with, of course, Chadwick Boseman dying. But for the most part, Fruitvale Station, Creed, Black Panther, the guy is really talented. He really is. He's one of the best directors, writers working today. He can pretty much take any movie, any content that he wants and kind of put his own twist on it. And, he's going to get the budget he needs. He's a guy that has earned that after 5 films. So I was really looking forward to Sinners. I love Michael B. Jordan. I love that it's taken a very genre-specific world that is vampires and is putting a Ryan Coogler spin on it. So it's a movie that, hopefully it was going to be good because, he's pretty competent as a director. And so going into this movie, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's very hard R rated. And so with that said, Michael B. Jordan, Hailee Steinfeld, and Wunmi Mosaku, and of course, Delroy Lindo and stuff like that, Jack O'Connell. I didn't know if it was going to be good. I mean, it's just one of those things, but here we are. My honest review of this movie is it is quite entertaining, it is quite good, and it is everything Ryan Coogler is known for doing, which is presenting a very deep story with very deep roots, with a great sense of directorial presence. It's a movie that really is an awe-inspiring thing to watch, and it's probably one of his best movies, if not his best movie, because it allows the layers of the world of the Deep South, the world of this folklore, which is a folk tale in a lot of respects, the world where everything of injustice is being presented on screen, and allows it to kind of bleed out into the world. Ryan Coogler has turned himself into a director that has a very strong presence of what he wants to tell, but he knows how to do it with style and substance. You saw this in Fruitvale Station, you saw it in Black Panther, you saw it in, of course, Creed. The guy is very good at conveying messages that may not be comfortable for a lot of people, and he does it with such reverence and style that he is in another class of his own. He's up there with Christopher Nolan, as a director that's just really good at what he does. And he presents characters that are fun, they're entertaining, that may be despicable in a lot of respects, that may not be the most, what you would call smart people in a lot of respects, but they are people with a lot of talent, they are people with a lot of drive, and it's a movie where it has style, it has substance, and it has meaning, and it also has the great violence and great entertainment value that Ryan Coogler can present on screen. And I love Michael B. Jordan as the twins. I think there are some issues with like some of the, the visual flair, visual technology being used when they're like transferring stuff between each other. There was a point in the beginning of this movie where they're sitting in front of the car that they have and they exchange cigarettes, but you could kind of tell that it's like digitally manipulated. But I think for the most part, it is done pretty well. They know how to create a sense of like two individuals really being there, because you can also film them separately and still have them work in a very unique fashion. But Michael B. Jordan does a fantastic job, as he always does, as creating something really fun and unique. And he's creating two characters that are very despicable individuals that are there for profit and get embroiled in this really crazy conspiracy of like vampires and stuff like that. And as you can see throughout the trailer, you know, one of the brothers may be turned into a vampire. But I love the fact that you have all these great supporting characters with like newcomers like Miles Caton, who plays the cousin. You have Delroy Lindo, who's been one of the most fantastic actors in the history of acting. You know, Wunmi Mosaku, and of course, Hailee Steinfeld. They're just fantastic actors being put with a great story. And I've always said the movie could be, you know, one of the most outlandish, one of the craziest. It could have the greatest actors in the world. If the story's not there, if the story's not well represented, the actors, it doesn't matter what they do, it'll be the worst movie ever. But here, Ryan Coogler is confident in what he's trying to present, and I think it works. I really do. You know, I love the interactions between them. I love that there's like a real kind of past with them. I love the simple fact that, you know, it's really deep, really kind of complex love interest stories. I love the fact that, you know, it really feels authentic to what these people had to go through. And I just think it really is a great thing. And I think Joack O'Connell as Remick, who plays the main vampire, is fantastic. I think it's interesting that the vampirism stuff doesn't really come until halfway through the movie, and that could be seemingly a problem because it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. But I think what it does, I think the setup is so interesting that I think it's actually the most stronger part of the movie than the vampire stuff. And I think the fact that the vampire stuff is dealing with kind of what similar to what this world is dealing with, which is like the racist aspect, is really interesting because, you know, Joack O'Connell, he is a vampire trying to basically turn this world into a cleansed world of like everybody's the same, but he's missing the point of like maybe that's just not how it works. You can't just cleanse the world and expect it to be whole. And it really is interesting thing to watch as people become vampires, just kind of how that plays out. But getting off like the actors and the story, I think it's this movie's look. I think it's feel. I think it's setting. I think, you know, the idea of like the music playing is really like authentic and really kind of kinetic and really energetic. I wish there was more scenes in IMAX because it is really jarring. I think it's really cool when they spread the IMAX screen, when it goes from like you see the black bars and then it actually moves up into IMAX. It's a really cool effect, but like I said, I wish there was more to it. I think Ludwig Göransson's score is amazing. I think the soundtrack is amazing. I think there's the one scene that you'll see in the trailers where like the place burns up, but there's like a bunch of like different people, different musicians from different eras of music that come into play, which is really cool. I love the darkness to this movie. I love the colors of this movie. You know, it really has a sense of like being a horror film, but also being a film with a lot of style and substance when it comes to like how it's lit, how it's shot. You know, the cinematographer who's worked with, of course, Ryan Coogler, does a really nice job of lighting the scenes. There's a lot of great like delineations from like the inside of the juke joint to the outside, where the inside feels very kinetic, feels very homely, feels very kind of sexual, and then you go outside and it's very dark and dreary and disturbing. I just love that kind of stuff. I love the sound work as these movies have. I love like the way that everything feels just kind of two halves of a different whole, which is really cool. And in the end, you know, to kind of close out this review, I think this is a movie that, you know, is a little long. I think it's a movie that, you know, especially near the end, it does get a little convoluted, to be fairly honest. And I think it's just because they're trying to wrap up the story. But I think it does have some heart near the end, especially with one of Michael B. Jordan's characters. And I think when you kind of boil it down, when you kind of get to the nuts and bolts of what Sinners is, I think it is Ryan Coogler trying to represent a world where both sides of a coin are never going to be the right side. There is going to be some problems on each side, but it also gives that revenge style story with, you know, the idea of like allowing a character like Smoke or Stack the ability to get back at their kind of the people that put them down, like the KKK and stuff like that. So it's a really cool story. It has some great visuals, great music, and it's just overall a very, very entertaining movie. But it is a little too long. That's just kind of where it rolls. So there you go. Anyways, with that said, that is going to be my take on Sinners, the newest film from director Ryan Coogler. But with that said, in the comments below, what is your favorite kind of, vampire movie, favorite Ryan Coogler movie, Michael B. Jordan movie? Just let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, if you like what you see on the channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys.